Welcome to this explainer. Okay, today we are diving into something that is, and I don't use this phrase lightly, literally life-changing. We're looking at Martin Seligman's groundbreaking work on what it truly takes to cultivate authentic happiness. You know, for decades, psychology has been incredibly focused on fixing what's broken in the human mind. But what happens when we flip the script? What happens when we shift that focus to building what's great? How do we go from just barely surviving to actually truly thriving? Well, let's find out.
Let's kick things off with a bit of a mystery. Picture a 1960 Mills College yearbook. Researchers went back and looked at 141 senior class photos of women. All but 3 of them were smiling. Decades later, these same researchers wondered, could you actually predict from a single senior year smile what these women's lives would turn out to be like? I mean, it sounds totally impossible, right? How much can one single frozen moment in time really tell us about a person's entire future?
Well, it turns out it can tell us a lot. And it brilliantly illustrates the difference between a real emotion and a posed one. The researchers divided the yearbook smiles into 2 distinct categories. First, you have the genuine Duchenne smile, named after the guy who discovered it. This is where the corners of your mouth turn up and the skin around your eyes actually crinkles. It is really hard to fake. On the flip side, we have the forced Pan Am smile. Think of a super polite flight attendant. It totally lacks those crinkling eyes. The results? Absolutely wild. Women displaying that genuine Duchenne smile were overwhelmingly more likely to experience marital success, stay married, and have high personal well-being 30 whole years later. And no, before you ask, it wasn't just about physical attractiveness. The researchers controlled for that. It was literally just the genuineness of the positive emotion.
Section 1. The Secret to Longevity.
This incredible link between positive emotion and our life outcomes goes even deeper when we look at a famous 1932 study of nuns in Milwaukee. Now, investigating longevity is usually a total nightmare scientifically because there are just so many variables, right? But nuns lead highly routine, sheltered lives. When these women first joined the order, they wrote these short autobiographical sketches. Sister Cecilia wrote about looking forward with eager joy to her life, just expressing this effervescent good cheer. In stark contrast, you have Sister Marguerite. Taking the exact same vows in the exact same city, she wrote a completely stoic, emotionless account focused purely on duty. Not a single whisper of positive emotion.
So why does this matter? It's the staggering difference in how their lives played out. When researchers actually quantified the amount of positive feeling in all 180 of these essays, they found something amazing. Get this. 90% of the most cheerful quarter of nuns were still alive at age 85. Compare that to just 34% of the least cheerful quarter. And if we look at age 94, it was 54% of the cheerful nuns still alive versus a mere 11% of the least cheerful. A happy nun, it turns out, is a long-lived nun.
Section 2. Psychology's missing half. Moving beyond the disease model.
With such powerful, undeniable data showing that happiness actually extends our lives and predicts our success, you might reasonably be sitting there wondering, how on earth did modern psychology miss this for so long? Historically, for every 100 journal articles on sadness, there was only 1 on happiness. Just 1. This timeline kind of explains that massive blind spot. After World War II, returning soldiers desperately needed help. Congress passed the VA Act and created the National Institute of Mental Health. Almost overnight, psychology adopted a strict disease model. All the grant money and focus went toward fixing what was broken. The field became brilliant, truly brilliant, at taking someone from a -5 to a -3 on the scale of human suffering. But in the process, they entirely forgot how to build human flourishing. They forgot how to take someone from a +2 to a +7.
For Martin Seligman, breaking out of this ingrained disease model took a pretty profound yet simple moment in the garden with his 5-year-old daughter, Nikki. He was out there weeding, being super goal-oriented and, let's be honest, pretty grumpy, and he yelled at her for just playing around. She came right back at him and told him that she had given up whining for her 5th birthday, which was the hardest thing she'd ever done. Then she dropped this absolute truth bomb. If I can stop whining, you can stop being such a grouch. Seligman realized right then and there that raising children and psychology itself shouldn't just be about correcting weaknesses or repairing damage.
This epiphany in the garden sparked a massive paradigm shift. It moved psychology away from a zero-sum focus on mental illness and toward an entirely new science of human thriving. Now, to be clear, positive psychology isn't just some fluffy, feel-good self-help trend. It is a rigorous science that seeks to deeply understand positive emotion, build up strength and virtue, and provide actual data-backed guideposts for finding what Aristotle famously called the good life. Okay, so let's unpack this framework. This new field is built very cleanly on 3 pillars. First, you have the study of positive emotions, so things like joy, hope, and serenity. Second is the study of positive traits, which are our underlying personal strengths and virtues. And third, the study of positive institutions. Think strong families, communities, and democracies that actually support and nurture those virtues.
Section 3. Shortcuts versus authentic happiness. The hedonic delusion.
Now, if we want to build these positive emotions in our own lives, why can't we just rely on endless shortcuts? We all love a quick fix, right? Shopping, binge-watching television, eating a whole bar of chocolate. Well, it turns out the simple math of hedonism is a complete delusion. Simple hedonism tries to tell us that a good life is just maximizing good moments and minimizing bad ones. Just simple addition and subtraction. But the sum total of our momentary feelings is actually a severely flawed measure of how good an entire life experience, whether it's a marriage, a career, or even just a vacation, actually is.
Daniel Kahneman's famous colonoscopy experiment brilliantly proved this point, and it's fascinating. He tested two groups of patients. One group had a standard, uncomfortable procedure. The other group had the exact same procedure, but at the very end, the doctor left the scope in for 1 extra minute, stationary. Now, this added a full minute of overall discomfort, but the ending itself was less painful than the peak moments of the procedure. And here is the crazy part. The group that endured the longer procedure with the less painful ending actually remembered the whole event far more positively and was much more willing to do it again. Endings matter. Meaning matters. It's not just a basic math equation of total pain versus total pleasure.
So this helps us really distinguish between a fleeting pleasure and an authentic gratification. A pleasure, like devouring a hot fudge sundae, gives you this momentary stream of positive emotion, but it fades almost instantly. A gratification, on the other hand, like tutoring your nephew in math, might not feel like bursting euphoric joy in the exact moment, but it stops time. It deeply engages your personal strengths. It leaves you feeling mellow, capable, and authentically happy long after the event is over.
Section 4. Why be happy? The evolutionary purpose.
So if authentic happiness actually requires so much effort and engagement, what is the evolutionary purpose of these positive emotions in the first place? We all know why negative emotions exist, but why did we evolve to feel joy or serenity? Well, while negative emotions evolved for zero-sum survival games, positive emotions evolved to do the exact opposite. Fear, sadness, and anger, they're alarm systems. They tell us danger or loss is looming right now. They narrow our focus to fight or flee. If you're being attacked, you don't admire the attacker's haircut, you focus entirely on the weapon. Positive emotions, however, do the reverse. They make our mental set expansive, tolerant, and highly creative.
Section 5. The broaden and build theory. Fredrickson's framework.
Barbara Fredrickson really captured this expansive nature in her award-winning broaden and build theory. She showed that positive emotions are basically an evolutionary investment in our future, which explains their true function way beyond just making us feel good. When we feel good, we broaden our intellectual and social tolerance. We become significantly more open to new ideas and connections. And this process allows us to build up abiding, permanent reserves, things like deep friendships, new knowledge, and creative problem-solving skills that we can draw upon way later when a real threat or opportunity actually presents itself.
The evidence for this is absolutely amazing. For instance, if you give people a small bag of candy, just to induce a tiny blip of positive emotion, they instantly become better at creative tasks, like figuring out how to attach a candle to a wall using only a box of tacks. Even more incredibly, experienced doctors who were given a small bag of candy before reviewing a difficult medical case diagnosed a complex liver disease much faster and avoided superficial thinking completely compared to a control group. Think about that. A little bit of positive emotion literally makes you smarter and more creative.
Now, I hear you. It is true that our baseline for positive emotion definitely has a genetic steersman. Some people are just naturally bubbly. Others, like Seligman himself actually admits about his own life, are naturally a bit gloomier. And you can actually measure your specific baseline using tools like the PANAS scale. But here is the critical takeaway. Regardless of your genetic starting point, the research is crystal clear. We can absolutely cultivate and maximize the positive emotion we do have.
Section 6. Finding your signature strengths. Building your best self.
Because the ultimate way to cultivate authentic happiness isn't by trying to paste a fake Pan Am smile on your face every day. No, it is to identify and lean heavily into your own deeply ingrained personal strengths. When positive psychologists looked across thousands of years of history, analyzing completely different cultures, philosophers, and religions from all over the world, they found this remarkable convergence. Almost all of them agree on 6 core virtues that define human goodness: wisdom, courage, love, justice, temperance, and spirituality. These aren't just arbitrary, nice-sounding words. They are the absolute foundation of a meaningful life. Within those 6 virtues are specific strengths, and they basically come in 2 flavors. Tonic strengths are ones you can display every single day, right? Things like kindness, curiosity, or a love of learning. Phasic strengths, however, are ones that only appear when you are truly challenged, like valor or fairness. This perfectly explains the Harry Truman effect, why some people just rise to the occasion magnificently when a crisis hits. They tap into those phasic strengths that were just lying dormant, waiting for the right moment.
So all of this brings us to the ultimate question for you. What are your signature strengths? Instead of spending the rest of your life endlessly trying to fix your flaws, endlessly trying to go from a -5 to a -3, what if you completely shifted your focus today? What are the unique, authentic strengths you already possess that you can start building your life, your work, and your relationships around right now? Authentic happiness isn't a shortcut, it's the daily exercise of your best self. So I'll leave you with this. Which of your greatest strengths have been lying dormant, just waiting for you to finally use them?